his head tilting ever so slightly as though he had sensed our presence. Panic surged through us, its shadows growing darker and more oppressive. The realization hit us like a hammer blow. He had seen us, and he was approaching, his footsteps heavy. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. We hope you will enjoy today's story. The sun hung low in the sky as my friend, Mark, and I prepared for our spontaneous hiking trip deep into the forest. The lush green canopy overhead promised an adventure we would never forget. Armed with backpacks, water bottles, and a shared enthusiasm for nature, we embarked on our journey, unaware of the impending darkness that would shroud our day. As Mark and I ventured deeper into the forest, the dappled sunlight played on the forest floor, creating a mesmerizing mosaic of light and shadow. The air was thick with the earthy scent of moss and damp leaves, and the distant hum of insects filled the stillness. We followed a narrow trail, its path winding through ancient trees whose gnarled roots reached out like skeletal fingers. Our curiosity led us off the beaten track, into a tangle of underbrush and fallen branches. There, hidden amid the dense foliage, we stumbled upon the unsettling scene. At first, it was just a glimpse, a flicker of something odd between the trees. Drawing closer, the forest seemed to hold its breath as we emerged from the shadows into a small clearing. Our eyes widened with a mixture of awe and dread. In the center of the clearing, a man knelt, his back hunched, shoveling dirt with a rusty spade. His clothes were ragged, tattered remnants that seemed to merge with the earth itself. His disheveled hair hung in greasy clumps. Sweat glistened on his brow as he worked with an almost feverish intensity. The hole he was digging was about waist deep, and the freshly turned soil lay in a mound nearby. A shiver crept down my spine as I exchanged a worried glance with Mark. We stood hidden behind a thicket of bushes, the leaves rustling softly in the breeze. From our vantage point, it was difficult to see exactly what the man was burying, but it was undeniably something substantial. My heart raced as I strained to catch a glimpse of the mysterious contents of the hole. I could hear the rhythmic scrape of the spade against the earth, each shovelful of dirt falling with a soft thud. Sweat trickled down my temple. Something about the scene held me back, a gnawing feeling in the pit of my stomach. Mark and I remained hidden, our breaths shallow, as we watched the man continue his grim task. The forest whispered its secrets, and we could only wonder what horrors lay hidden beneath the earth. Suddenly, the man dropped the spade, and it landed with a dull thud against the mound of freshly turned soil. He turned his gaze toward us, his head tilting ever so slightly as though he had sensed our presence. Panic surged through us, and the forest seemed to close in, its shadows growing darker and more oppressive. In his grimy hand, the man held a sharp, gleaming metal object, a rusty blade that glinted malevolently in the dappled sunlight. The realization hit us like a hammer blow. He had seen us, and he was approaching, his footsteps heavy and deliberate on the forest floor. We shared a wordless understanding, our instincts screaming at us to flee from this ominous stranger. Without a second thought, we turned and ran, the leaves crunching beneath our feet as we sprinted deeper into the labyrinthine forest. Fear propelled us forward, and our hearts pounded like thunder in our chests. Behind us, we could hear the man's footfalls growing closer, the metallic scrape of his blade against the trees sending shivers down our spines. The forest around us blurred into a chaotic maze of shadows and branches as we sprinted for our lives, branches scratching our skin and roots threatening to trip us. But we couldn't afford to slow down, not with the specter of that menacing man behind us. The forest had become a terrifying, unfamiliar realm, and our only goal was to escape its clutches and the relentless pursuit of the man with the sharp, glinting blade. Breathless and desperate, Mark and I found ourselves in a small thicket of dense underbrush, our hearts pounding like a drumbeat in the tense silence of the forest. Hidden from view, we crouched down, hoping that the menacing figure pursuing us had lost our trail. As we huddled together, the stillness of the night was broken by the sound of footsteps. Someone was approaching our hiding spot, and terror gripped us once more. Our eyes met, wide with fear, and we dared not exchange a single word. Slow, deliberate footsteps drew nearer, crunching the leaves and twigs underfoot. The forest seemed to hold its breath, and the world narrowed down to the rustling of leaves in our pounding hearts. Through the thicket, we could barely make out the silhouette of a person, but the darkness obscured their features. It could have been the same man we had seen digging the hole, or perhaps just another lost soul in this tangled web of trees. Seconds stretched into minutes, and Mark and I remained frozen, our breaths shallow and controlled. The intruder passed by our hiding spot, mere feet away. We felt the weight of our pounding hearts echoing in our ears, fearing that any sound might betray our presence. Finally, the footsteps receded into the distance and the forest returned to its eerie stillness. Mark and I waited a few moments more, our muscles tense, before daring to move. We knew we couldn't stay hidden forever, but for now we would remain as silent as the secrets of the forest, waiting for the right moment to continue our escape. Hours passed, and our frenzied escape had left us disoriented and lost. Darkness had descended upon the forest, and the eerie silence was broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. Our breaths came in ragged gasps, and exhaustion gnawed at our bones. Lost and alone, we realized our dire predicament. As the night wore on, Mark and I huddled together, our fear subsiding into exhaustion. Just as despair was about to consume us, a faint whisper reached our ears. It was the sound of a distant highway, a lifeline in the heart of the wilderness. With newfound determination, we followed the whisper, hoping it would lead us to safety. We made our way through the dense forest, guided by the distant hum of cars on the highway. The sound grew louder with each step, like a siren call promising refuge from the menacing darkness of the woods. Our tired legs ached, and our breaths came in ragged gasps, but the thought of civilization and safety spurred us onward. Branches scratched at our clothes, and the forest floor was uneven beneath our feet, but the distant highway served as our North Star, a beacon of hope in the black expanse of the wilderness. The forest seemed to stretch on endlessly, but we pressed forward, determined to reach the source of that comforting sound. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we emerged from the thick underbrush onto the shoulder of the highway. Cars whizzed by in a blur of headlights, their tires humming on the asphalt. We waved frantically, our faces streaked with dirt and sweat, until a passing car noticed our distress and pulled over. Relieved to have escaped the horrors of the forest, Mark and I climbed into a passing car that had stopped to help us. The driver, a kind-hearted stranger, had offered us a ride to safety, and we gratefully accepted. As the vehicle sped away from the treacherous woods, I could feel my tense muscles slowly start to relax. My heart, which had been pounding with fear and exertion, began to slow its frantic rhythm. But just as I was starting to breathe easy, something in the rearview mirror caught my attention. My heart leapt into my throat as I locked eyes with the reflection of a man standing on the side of the highway. It was him, the mysterious stranger who had pursued us relentlessly through the forest. My breath caught in my chest, and I could feel a cold sweat bead on my forehead. "Mark," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Look in the rearview mirror." Mark turned to look, and his eyes widened with horror as he, too, saw the menacing figure standing there, watching us with a malevolent gaze. The driver, oblivious to our distress, continued down the highway, his radio softly playing a cheerful tune. Our screams pierced the air as we frantically pleaded with the driver to go faster. But the man by the side of the road remained rooted in place, his haunting stare following us until he disappeared from view, swallowed by the darkness. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I clung to Mark's hand, our fingers intertwined in a desperate, trembling grip. The forest's secrets and the stranger's menacing presence would forever haunt our nightmares, leaving us with a chilling reminder that some mysteries were best left untouched. If you find this content entertaining, please consider giving it a thumbs up by clicking the like button below. It really helps support the channel. And if you haven't already, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update from us. Thanks so much for being a part of our YouTube community here.